But first, like, Dan, if this is a matchup of elite plate discipline, the Dodgers might have this advantage. I mean, even when they played in June, they walked 6 times and 7 times against the Yankees. We talked about how the Mets pitching staff had a tough matchup against them because the Mets stayed out of the pitching zone and out of the strike zone against them. Who wins this battle at the plate?
Well, again, BK, I thought that was, you hit on, to me, the most important part of the whole series. Carlos, all the postseason games I watched, I call it the battle of the strike zone. Who wins the battle of the strike zone, for me, usually always wins individual games and series. I think the Yankees are going to have to change their approach to pitching because as we'll look at this board, they don't pitch in the strike zone either. They pitch, like, out of the strike zone a lot. And so we already see the Dodgers simply do not chase outside the strike zone, Carlos. And the Yankees, are going to have to approach this series different than any other series they've been. You could do that against Cleveland. You can't do that against the prolific offensive team that the Dodgers have. They're not just going to have to attack the strike zone. They're going to have to execute their pitches win the strike zone. And the Dodger pitchers are going to have to do the exact same thing to the Yankees hitters, too, because they don't chase a whole ton either.
It's extremely difficult for a pitcher when you see that batters are out there just so disciplined and do not come out of the zone. At the same time, I would say this. We've seen Luke Weaver start, batters throwing a lot of pitches out of the zone, trying to get chases, and he gets better when he actually comes back into the strike zone. So I'm wondering if having disciplined hitters actually will help the Yankees go ahead and establish that tunnel that they need to establish to be more effective when sequencing. So it's going to be interesting. You have to come into the strike zone if you're going to succeed, especially against a lineup that does not come out of the strike.
Yeah, the issue is, though, that obviously is a philosophical approach that the Yankees have put in, that they're banking on the fact that, again, using effective velocity, they're going to get recognition skills that they're going to get hitters to chase outside the strike zone. It worked for them the entire year. Now, can they shift gears philosophically and be in the strike zone to have a chance to win this World Series?
Seems like the Mets staff was different from this Yankees staff, and the Yankees staff is very different. But look at this number. Even the numbers can be thrown off, but you look at the worst starting pitcher ERAs in postseason history among World Series winning teams. 1960 Pirates got pummeled by the Yankees. They still managed to win. But, the Dodgers right now, starter ERA, Dan, is 6.08. Now, they got blown up a bunch of times. I'm not sure if that's what we're looking at exactly in this series. Again, the Dodgers have whittled it down to 3. Walker Buehler looks different. So I don't expect this to be, wow, the starting pitching from the Dodgers just can't be any good.
BK, it's going to have to be better. I do not think it's sustainable, what they've tried to do to get through the LCS. We're going to put up another board here, which actually shows what happens when you face relievers the 3rd time in a series. It's very similar as you face a starting pitcher faces a hitter 3rd time through the lineup. It's just not sustainable. The more these hitters see relievers, the more problematic it becomes. So, the Dodgers simply are going to have to get some innings out of 3 starting pitchers for me to be able to match it. But the Yankees clearly have an advantage right now.
Well, I think they would. We're looking at a different Buehler and Yamamoto at this point, are we? Who knows what happens series to series, but they look different.
I think Buehler's stuff was better. I don't think his command of his stuff was very good. So I'm not talking about the fact that he'll start for them. He's got to give them some innings. Now, the one thing Dave did a great job of, which is so unique in postseason, Carlos, he airmailed in some games. Like when the Mets scored big in those games, it was his B bullpen. He didn't pitch any of his A arms like you would do in a regular season. Hardly you ever see that in postseason. You never give up on a game in postseason.
Well, that's what he only had 2 Mets. I think it was Lindor and Alonso that faced one of the A squad more than once. So Dave Roberts was able to keep A squad to limiting that 3rd time through.
Look, it's not the same as when you see the starting pitcher in the 3rd time, going through the lineup, but yes, indeed. When you see a reliever more and more often, you start getting his cadence. You start getting more comfortable with him. So you try to save those guys. I'm not going to show you, especially in a blowout game, I'm not going to go out there and just throw out my weapons. But this type of bullpenning, if we go through the ALCS and now you're going into the World Series, it's just not sustainable. They need length. And speaking of Buehler, absolutely command is the key if he is to give the Dodgers length. We saw Flaherty also had a tough outing last time out there. Maybe he gets the nod, but he obviously needs to be better. This is a very disciplined lineup for the Yankees.
It is. It's amazing how these teams have changed, too, as well. Again, watching these games, you wonder, where would they be without Tommy Edman? And it didn't seem like, it was a pretty big trade at the time, obviously. So you see the notable players acquired midseason, Jack Flaherty coming over. They went A-squad there, too, who was considered one of the the top starters out there. But to get Kopech and Edman, meantime, Yankees a little more quietly got Tim Hill. And Jazz Chisholm, I have to admit, Dan, Chisholm has been a very different player. Goes to third base, can handle it. There are some ups and downs. There's some mercurial performance there, but there's real power. There's a live at bat against good pitching. So these were monstrous deals by both of these big spending clubs.
They did. I mean, I think the Edman thing at the time was way under the radar. I mean, I think the Dodgers have been after Tommy Edman for a while. He was the perfect fit for that club because they had two issues. They had a shortstop issue because of Rojas's health. They had a center field issue. So his versatility to play either of those positions, I thought, was a tremendous get. Start out slow because he'd been hurt the whole year, just needed at-bats underneath his belt. And then the Kopech addition just added to already a deep bullpen another power arm. And I agree with you on Chisholm, BK. I think he brought an air of more energy to that ball club when that trade went down.
Yeah, there's the three-team trade right there. Edman hadn't played. That was why he was, like, under the radar at the time. Kopech, it seems obvious now. It's like, of course, they're going to turn him into something very different and an ultimate weapon in the bullpen.
The Dodgers have been really good at that for years now. We see Kike Hernandez being a huge part of the success of that ball club, and now he returns as well. You know, with Edman, it's this. You look at the player and you tell yourself, look, this is a high-probability swing type guy. He's going to put the ball in play.
Yep.
He's going to give you good at-bats. He's going to run the bases. So he's the sum of all parts for him. Nothing extraordinary. But guess what happens in the postseason when he goes out there and he actually puts the barrel on the ball?
Yeah, just a great compliment to the lineup that the Dodgers had, though. Like that type of player you described kind of fit to a lineup that wasn't getting a lot of length in it as the course of the season went on. And the other thing about the deployment of Kopech, very interesting, he hadn't closed that many games. So they might have tweaked some of his things, but they also kept him away a lot from the. He has saves, but Dave just kind of deploys him. He started the other day. He's pitched in the middle of the game. He's pitched in a high leverage late in the game.
But he's leveraged, though.
Yeah, they don't really have a pure closer. They just use a lot of, I guess, Trinan turned into that right now.
Also, the Yankees reportedly did have a deal for Jack Flaherty. Now, you've been involved. You have 15 years as a general manager. They did not like the medicals. We hear a lot of that in recent years. A lot of times it turns out to be, wow, they really did see something there. Your thoughts on turning down that trade and how different things would be if Flaherty was not on the Dodgers, was on the Yankees?
Well, I don't think the Yankees needed him as bad as the Dodgers needed him.
Right.
Because I think the Yankees survived that, not making that trade completely. Where it would affect it is right now.
Yeah.
Because that would have been one less arm that the Dodgers would have a chance to deploy. Honestly, I've been in trades where some of our players were turned down on medicals, though. And it's crazy, Carlos, because every group reviews medicals differently. So it's not like one consistent thought process.
Yeah, and for you, Dan, like, I mean, you're sitting there in the office and you talking to your medical staff, and your medical staff says, we see something that we don't like, but you like the player. You know, how difficult is it for you to say, you know what, I'm going to trust what my medical staff is saying?
When you get to only navigating 2 months and you really like the player and you have a chance to win a World Series, you're going to make that deal.
That's true. That's different. I was just thinking of Carlos Correa, but at the time we're looking at a 12-year deal as opposed to a several-month deal. But, man, things would be drastically. I mean, Dodgers down to 2-3 pitchers. Flaherty was one of them. They would have been in bad shape.